and welcome to another episode of the Tenerife Pod, sponsored by BDR Solutions. I am your host, Jenny T, here with Mr. Elkington.
Hello, how are you on this lovely Monday morning?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
All right, had a good weekend, thank you. You?
Yeah, no, really nice actually. Lovely weather and all that, isn't it? We won't get into too much today because we've actually got quite a bit of a special episode. So I'm going to take you back to the 22nd of May.
Yep.
When there was uproar in Tenerife. As we may remember, we've discussed this a couple of times, but there was a big announcement about a company called Weddings In Tenerife.
Yes.
Saying that they had filed for insolvency. And then off of this, so much has happened. We've discussed it on the pod a couple of times.
We've done it twice, yep.
There has been a lot of talk on social media, a lot of accusations thrown about. There's been things in the UK press. This has gone all over. And I know you're still getting messages as well,
Absolutely. Chris. I mean, obviously it's been in the Irish press, also in Liverpool, in Cambridge, I think, as well, different places, where obviously couples and brides who've been affected by this are giving their side of the story. Now, we've been absolutely inundated and bombarded and, you know, in all fairness, accused of defending or not saying anything about this because obviously Weddings in Tenerife were an advertiser with us,
yes.
Which is true, they were an advertiser, but not true as to why we haven't done anything. We've tried to stay impartial and objective about the situation and said, you know, as and when we have proof, either way, then we would, you know, either publish something, do something on the pod, do something on the radio accordingly. Now, we've still had message requests and contact over the weekend from various different brides representing the WhatsApp group of people affected. Yeah. But among this over the weekend, I was actually contacted by Weddings in Tenerife themselves. And, you know, they had seen some of the reels of the conversations we'd had and offered to send us proof of three things. One was the contact with their lawyers ordering the proceedings and the insolvency application with the courts. The second one was proof of refunds that have taken place in the last week since this happened. And the third one, when people have said their weddings weren't booked or venues weren't paid, proof of payments to venues as well. So having actually spoken to them on the phone, I said, well, why don't you come in and tell people yourself? And I'm delighted to say that we're going to hear it from the horse's mouth today because we are joined by Lars Jensen from Weddings in Tenerife, who is here with us in the studio.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome. And first of all, I want to say thank you for coming in because I can't imagine what you guys have been going through. Obviously, nobody knows necessarily what's actually happened. They only know things that we're reading and stuff. But I can't imagine what's happening at the moment for you guys. So thank you, first of all, for just being here. I think what I'd like to do first is just hear it from you in your own words, what's actually happened and how and what happens that's led to this point like today.
What simply happened was that the company ran out of money. It's like when you do a lot of weddings, you know, there are bottleneck situations, you know, and there's been bottleneck situations here over the summer where the money flow simply didn't stretch, you know, to continue. I would say that if we have continued for another couple of months and so forth, we would probably have been back on track. But we didn't have any money left to pay, you know, and therefore we had to declare insolvency. Do
you remember the moment that you decided that was your only option? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, because it's not an easy decision to make, you know, for any business, is it?
And that's also, it's very important for me to emphasize, you know, it's not like we popped up yesterday and just promised people weddings and then suddenly we're gone. So Claire, you know, Claire Lopez or Claire Oxenham, call her what you want, she has 15 years of history, you know, as a wedding planner and celebrant here in Tenerife. She's been working very hard. And she's also built up a good reputation, you know, amongst a lot of people. Mm-hmm. She have performed an extreme amount of weddings. So we are talking 600, 700, 800 weddings, you know. So it's not like she was imposter just saying, hey, I'm going to give you a wedding, and then suddenly she's gone. That's not what happened.
And I think that's interesting because obviously there's two things there. We'll pick up on the name in a minute. Yeah. But I think that's interesting because obviously the people making all the accusations don't live here.
No.
Their only experience is what's happening now. They don't know the history. They haven't had the history. Yes, we know you guys. I wouldn't say that we're not friends and socialised, but we've known each other a long time. I've been to loads of weddings that you've organised, and Claire's been the celebrant
and I would just
for.
like to point out as well, despite the fact that there has been a lot of comments and things on Facebook in regards to negative, there has also been a lot saying, we had our wedding last year, it was great, I couldn't recommend them enough, I'm so surprised to see that this has happened. So I feel like it's just worth mentioning that not everything has been like, yes, they're awful, like this was bound to happen. Like there's been some really positive things about you guys.
As I would say, for like two weeks before that we filed for insolvency, we started to realize that, hey, we actually have a big problem. And I would say, that when that happened, we did contact, different people to find different solutions, and they immediately...
In what way? What kind of thing?
I mean, that was, for example, to give us a loan, for example, it could be that they would consider, maybe buy a share of the company and so forth, because everybody recognized that Claire got a really good reputation and she's delivered really good services to people, But unfortunately, a lot of these people who said that they were interested, they were not able to produce the money. And that could be of different reasons. Maybe they've just promised more than they could keep. But it was probably also just because people have money, that doesn't mean that they have access to cash, that the money can be tied up.
Sure.
And we know that there's different situations with people who actually who do have money, but they were just not able to untie the money that fast. And that's why this situation then occurred,
Okay. So in regards people's accusations that you've been plotting, that you aimed to scam people out of money, that's been your sole aim this whole time, that you're planning on taking the money and leaving the island, what would you say to those people?
I mean, as you mentioned before, those accusations, maybe they're made from people not living on the island that just consider Tenerife a place where you come and go. But we actually live down here. I've lived here for, I think it's 12 or 13 years. Claire, she lived here for 25 years. This is our life, and we're going to stay here. We're not going anywhere.
Okay.
If we want to leave, we can leave, but why should we? The thing is that there's been a bankruptcy now, and that's hurt some people, especially these upcoming weddings. We acknowledged that, and we also apologized for that, but it's not something we wanted. And I would also say, and I know I can't say this without people getting upset, but the fact is that we have also lost big time in this,
Sure.
We have lost our company. We have Claire, she's lost her reputation, her career, it's like it's like if I should kind of put all of this into a prompt on an AI photo generator, it's like we are just with big smiles and a big bag of gold, and escaping everybody, we're living right here, right now with our families,
Absolutely.
I know.
One of the things I wanted to pick up on what you said was, you said Claire Lopez, or whatever her name is. One of the accusations of her not being honest is that people are saying Lopez isn't even her name.
Yeah.
So let's just address that situation, because obviously, everyone knows her as Claire Lopez, the wedding planner or the celebrant. So where does that come from? Because I know you wanted to address it.
Okay, that's from Claire's former marriage. She was married to a Lopez. So her children is also called Lopez. And everybody in Tenerife knows her as Claire Lopez.
Yeah.
If she went around to people and said, "Hey, I'm Claire Oxenham," nobody would know who it was.
Yeah, true.
But in this particular case with the weddings, it's not relevant whether she is called Claire Lopez or Claire Oxenham, because they've been dealing with a company called Weddings in Tenerife SL.
Correct, and that's one of the things that we were really keen to address, Jen, wasn't it? That,
Yeah.
when people were contacting us and saying, we need to know her real name, because it's not her real name, her date of birth and all this rubbish, so we can denounce her. We were like, no, you're dealing with a company.
Yeah.
This is a mercantile situation, which will be dealt with the mercantile courts.
Yeah, I mean, they got, if somebody wants to denounce us, they're welcome to do it. And they got all the information in the whole world to do this. So if the police, they want to contact Claire, they will just pick up the phone and call her. That's how it works down there,
Yep.
In regards being contactable, I know some of these maybe accusations and assumptions perhaps that you are running off with these big bags of gold is because maybe people haven't been able to contact you. Can you tell us why that is, that maybe people haven't been able to get in touch with you guys directly?
Yeah, the thing is that we send out an email to everybody who had a wedding with us and informed them.
How many people was that roughly?
I think it's 41 weddings.
Okay.
And
Between now and when?
and 28. So they're 2028.
Wow. So you're talking over the next 2 years.
Exactly. So that means that, yes, there are weddings in June. There's no weddings in July. There's 2 weddings in August. And then we're into September and so forth, But it means that these weddings in June, obviously, it's been horrible for them, They didn't expect this. They thought they were going to have their dream wedding, and then this happens. But it happened, and there's nothing we can do about it. So the email that we send out to people, it was different emails for different people, Because some of the weddings, preparations have been made already, where a lot of things have been booked and sorted. Yeah. And here we informed them in their emails that this has been done, and this is would you be your suppliers for the big day, and they are booked already. So please contact this and this person.
When you say suppliers, what do you mean?
That could be, for example, DJs, florists. It could be makeup artists.
So these people have already been booked for those dates, and you're saying, here's the contact, here's the proof they've been booked,
and not
you
only
can still use them.
And the first wedding after, there was a particular hotel, where we know for a fact that the event planner at the hotel is an in-house and external event planner as well. So we kind of handed it over, so to speak, and we know that that's not the right thing to do, but we have claimed insolvency. We are not allowed to operate anymore, so we handed as much forward as we could. Then weddings after that, they are back to the drawing board. They will have to sort this out themselves. But that's also because that we were the catering company. So that means that there are not booked any food and drinks because we were the food and the drinks.
I got you.
So what I'm saying is that once we've sent that out, we know very well, that this was not gonna. So people are gonna get very upset about this. I would get very upset. And to be very honest, as I mentioned before, it can be that people don't care, but this has affected Claire tremendously, and she did not need to be a punching bag for a lot of angry people, because it would make absolutely no difference whatever they could say and do and shout at her. So it wouldn't change anything other than pull her further down than she already is.
Yeah, makes sense.
Obviously, it's you here today and not Claire. Is that the reason? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same reason, because again, now people have pictured this picture of Claire like a big time criminal, running with a bag of gold and so forth. I think that everybody that truly knows Claire, that know that that's absolute rubbish, Yeah,
it's almost as though people have got this thing in their head. I'm not talking about people who live here, the people externally, that you guys are sat there laughing at the situation.
It's not funny,
and not giving a toss, but that's far from the truth, isn't it?
Yeah, try to imagine this, Claire, she's 47 years old. She just lost her career. She's the mother, she lost her job as well, for that matter, So she's out there looking for work again, And whatever people can throw at her right now, it won't make any difference.
No, absolutely. Which is why we wanted to take the stand originally and say, look, this is a mercantile situation.
It is.
This is the process. Now, one of the pieces of, or some of the paperwork, not one of the pieces, there was a lot of pieces of paperwork you sent me, because obviously there's been accusations about payments made, very late on towards the email being sent out, and obviously, there has been a refund process. There's 2 different ways people pay, either by bank transfer or through the website.
Correct.
Now, if I'm correct in saying this, that if they paid through the website, they can do a chargeback via the credit card company or via Wix or Stripe, whoever handles it. Obviously, if they paid by bank transfer, it has to go through the claims through the court when the insolvency proceedings. So, from the paperwork you sent me, I can't remember, I think you said how much has been refunded this last week? Was it 85,000 or something?
So that's what's being granted. And then, as I understand it, there's like a 2 or 3 week process period and stuff like that before people will start receiving their money.
Right.
But what we got is emails saying that they have asked
it's been accepted.
The chargeback have been accepted,
Yeah. And that's because of the email you sent out, because you're not providing the services they've paid for. Is that correct?
Exactly, because that's proof, to say that they're not going to deliver that service. We even got an email from them stating it here, so it's made it very easy for people to use that chargeback function,
And just to clarify, for people out there who think, oh, that means that you've got away with it. No, that then means that the credit card company will file against you in the insolvency process.
Of course. So what's going to get a little bit more specific, our website is at a company called Wix. And they are the payment provider. So that means that to begin with, the bank is going to take the money from Wix.
Okay.
And then later, Wix would come at our company and say, hey, company, we want our money back from this, So they will also get in line, at insolvency proceedings, and say, we also have a claim here,
Sure. Okay.
obviously, in some regard to that, there's been a lot of comments asking what's happened to the money that was paid by the brides and grooms, and now they're discovering venues and services haven't been booked or paid for. Are you saying there's perhaps not a lot of truth in that there are venues been booked and paid for?
I would really have to go in and look at every specific case, because there is an extreme amount of venues that have been paid, and I've also forwarded
I've got those,
receipts, to the radio station here in order to prove this. But there would also be weddings, like 27, 28, for example, where they have paid maybe a deposit of 2,000 euros, who have not been forwarded to the venues of that simple reason that they don't take bookings that early on.
So why would you take a deposit if they don't?
To save the date.
So first of all, just because there's not an official booking, that doesn't mean that the booking isn't penciled in. It just means that their system can't take an official booking. It's the same if you want to book a hotel room, for example. It usually opens up like 11 months before. And so that's just the procedure. That's how it's done. Okay. But I would also say that the venue is not the only people who need a deposit. We also needed a deposit for our work. Mm-hmm. And that's, again, I have to be very careful with what I say now, because people have no sympathy for that at all. But they have to remember that we have also invested a lot of time and work in these weddings already, and we have lost that as well,
But also, regarding the deposit, it means that the date is saved with you as a company.
Of course.
So, in other words, nobody else can come in and book that date.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the deposit is paid so that they know.
But the deposit isn't just for a venue or a DJ, it's for the whole.
It's for the date for the wedding, yeah.
But what I would also say is I also heard numbers like we should have cashed in like 1.4 million and people have paid in like 20,000 euros and so forth. It's absolutely not true. And I'm very happy to explain the process to people so people understand the financial trail that's going on, And that is usually when they book a wedding, they pay a deposit of 2,000 euros. And it can be that the quote that's made for the entire wedding is like 25,000, for example, right? Mm-hmm. So the remaining amount now is usually divided up in 5 different payments, divided equally in amount and time up until 3 months before the wedding. So that means that most of these weddings that's booked in 27 or 28, for example, they have only paid that deposit, And and we can see already now, quite a few of them as well have also used that chargeback function, So we don't even have an overview of right now how much money people are owed, but it's nowhere
near the amount that
nowhere near that amount, And and that it's also very important to clarify this. This is not $1 million scam. It's
I think that came about. I mean, we had an email off one of the couples who were claiming that there's 70 couples at an average of 20,000 euros each.
And that's rubbish, So there's maximum 40, I would say 41, but maybe 42 couples, That's it.
But also, some of those have only paid 2,000 euros because they're 18 months, 2 years in advance,
and I would even say, again, don't hang me up on this, please, but as I remember, 2 or 3 of them haven't even paid anything yet,
Okay, wow.
What about the accusation that, the couple who said they paid 6,000 euros and then got on a plane and received the email when they were on the plane on the way home? I don't want to talk about specifics, but obviously there is a situation of a couple of payments that were made close to you sending the email out. But they were made through the website, so you can't control that. But they've already been paid back anyway, haven't they?
That particular case with that 6,000 euros that should be handed over to people, and then they received an email on the way back in the plane. The only thing I don't get is that they were not even on the island. So so
you know which couple it is?
Yeah, I now I know exactly who it is, because obviously we also got curious about what's this about, But that whole claim about that they got that email also on the way back is very dramatic, But we got a WhatsApp communication showing that they were not even on the island. They were in England, in the UK at this time, So it's true that Claire should meet with one of their friends, to collect some money. But Claire, she said to them, please hold on to the money for a couple of days because we don't know what's going on right now. And just as well as she didn't take any money from them, I've also shown you guys the money transfers that happened in the last days, where we received payments and they went in and the money went right out again.
In fact, a couple of those were actual bank transfers, not bank transfers back.
But in this particular case now, because everybody knows that we made a big scam and ran with all the gold and stuff like that, then people are willing to believe everything, But the fact is, I know nothing about this.
Well, you didn't bring any bags with you today. I'm looking for them, but there's no overflowing pockets.
We did bring some bags. Could you talk about those, please?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting as well because I don't know if you know, Jem, but I did speak to Claire on the phone as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she said to me is that weddings have got some suitcases and I wouldn't say possessions, but stuff that belongs to some of the wedding couples that they may have had sent over or ordered and paid for, and they want to return. And you've brought those with you today for us to return to the couples. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. And thank you very much for helping with that.
No, it's no problem. I mean, at the end of the day, we want them to get them back. But it's just another example of,
I bet it's been really hard for you guys seeing what's being written and what's being said to not kind of want to reach out and just have your say. But I suppose doing it like this, I hope that we can address all of those.
Do you understand why they're so emotional, why they're so angry?
I would be exactly the same. I would be exactly the same, and that's also why we've had some that went a little overboard, maybe went a little too far. We have not done anything about that because we understand. But they should also understand, that Claire, she's not gonna be upfront, taking all of that from people, because first of all,
why should you?
They are not entitled to treat Claire like this because she is a businesswoman that went bankrupt, When a person goes bankrupt, that's something that has a tremendous impact on your life, and she will have to deal with that price now, She doesn't need that right now. I'm her husband, and I don't mind saying that I will protect her from that. I don't mind coming forward here, but there will be no point in me having face-to-face conversations with angry clients and so forth, because nothing good will come from it.
Not going to achieve anything. What about some of the accusations pointed at you? Because I know people have actually been pointing the finger at you and making all sorts of claims of who you are or what you are or what you aren't.
Yeah.
How are you coping?
Yeah, the fact is, that I have a past. I have been.
We all have a past.
Yeah.
Yours is quite colourful.
Mine is very colourful. The fact is, I had a very colourful past, and a lot of things have happened, and I haven't really seen anything that's untrue about that, But the fact is also that I got released from prison like 20 years ago, And after that, I wrote a book. And this book is actually accredited for not being like favorizing yourself or in any way making yourself look good. Quite the contrary, I'm kind of describing gang environment, as it is. And
this was in Denmark, wasn't it?
This was in Denmark, and with the damage it does to families and the young people who get sucked into it. And today I'm living a completely normal life, having a normal job.
So you've actually seen this from both sides over your lifetime?
Yeah, I would say that after I came out of prison, I also had a 10-year streak as an undertaker in Denmark, where I helped people where they were vulnerable.
Really?
So it's not like I'm running from anything else. We just decided to immigrate to Tenerife because it's a nice place to live.
Yeah.
And down
when
here...
When you say we...
That was with my family. I then got divorced from my
with
ex.
your first wife, right? Okay.
And then I met Claire, and then and today I'm married with Claire, and now we're living that life, So
I would like to ask, obviously we've talked about people that are affected in 2027, 2028. They might have to cause them a bit more work, and they might have to claim and stuff like that. But it looks like their days are going to be saved, and everything's going to be all right eventually. Obviously, we know that there's brides and grooms that are going to be flying over at the moment or maybe completely losing out on their wedding day.
Yeah.
If you could give them a message, what would you like to say to them?
Yeah, I can't say anything than we've already said, and I'm very sorry if it doesn't come through with enough sincerity, But we are truly very, very sorry about this, And they don't want to hear this either, But Claire, you've been done nothing but crying. This is not what she wanted, and that's also why it's important that people remember that she got 15 years of history. I know very well there can come some people forward now and say we were not happy with our wedding and so forth,
Yeah.
But I could also present hundreds of couples who've had a great experience with Claire, And this is not who she is.
And let's be honest, that reputation isn't only with people who've had weddings, it's with the whole industry here. You're talking with venues, hotels, DJ, everything, isn't it?
I think this came as a shock for everybody, and also for us. But the thing is, sometimes when you're self-employed as we are, and so working so many hours as we did, sometimes you just things just catch up with you, and this is what happened here, and we didn't expect this, it came in very fast. In a company like ours, there's an extreme amount of money rolling through all the time, because we're dealing. As we are representing couples, so we are paying for the vendors, we are paying for the venues. It's extreme amounts of money rolling in and out all the time, and just we didn't see this one coming,
So say, for example, 85,000 was returned this last week, and obviously those chargeback claims can continue. That'll only grow, and then there's say another 300, maybe a bit more thousand out there that is, if you like, due to people.
Yeah.
What have you actually got out there invested or that was due in from services that you were due to carry out over the next couple of months? Because
so not over the next couple of months, but for example, between now and then the end of 27, for example, that's about 300,000 or 400,000 euros there.
yeah,
And on top of that, I would also say at the same time, we got a lot of assets, once the mercantile court now starts selling our stuff,
yeah,
I'm not quite sure if we are supposed to do it and try to turn it into cash, or they do
No,
it
they
and so
do
forth,
it. Yeah.
But there will probably also be about 150,000 euros, worth of property, for them to sell,
yeah, on the on the company.
On the company,
Yeah. In hindsight, knowing what you know now and what's happened, would you have done anything
that's a
differently?
question, isn't it?
Yeah. What would you have done anything differently? Could you have done anything differently? Do you
Yeah,
think?
there are things I could have done differently, no doubt about it, but I would be a little uncomfortable not going into it, but because that's also on the personal front and stuff like that, But I would say, I think a lot of self-employed people, they can recognize that they suddenly find themselves completely tangled up in work, that they're working as a lot of hours, Other people looking in from the outside think that they're just living a dream and stuff like that,
Yep.
It's really hard, and it's something that affects all parts of your life, and
Would you have a message for any of the other wedding planners? Because obviously it's a massive business or a massive industry over here,
Yeah.
and obviously there's going to be businesses that pick up some of the pieces, if you like, or pick up weddings and clients, and hopefully, let's hope some of those couples get their dream day.
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, is there any advice you'd give to other wedding companies now that you're in the situation where you've grown so quickly? And obviously had a problem?
3 or 4 years ago, there was a company down here that was the same size of ours, with called My Perfect Wedding.
Right. Okay.
And same thing happened to them, So what I will say is that if you don't have your own venue down here as a wedding planner, you have to be very, very careful with your volume. You really have to be careful, As I would say that in 24, for example, we did do 75 weddings, Same in the 7 days.
Which is massive, because there's only 52 weekends in the year.
Exactly. The same in 25, I think it was a little less, maybe around 68 weddings,
Wow.
But the thing is that all that money coming in and out, and you always being the little player, with the big venues, the big hotels and so forth, if you go up in that volume, you have to be extremely careful. You have to be sure to have some very good people on board who can manage the economy and so forth, because everything is moving very fast. And so what I would say to people is even keep it small, so you have an overview at all times, or simply stay away from it if you don't have your own venue, because it's not as easy as it looks. It really isn't,
Yeah, and I guess that's something that you see, something like Weddings in Tenerife. That Claire's been doing it successfully for around 15 years. And I suppose the assumption is they're very successful, very wealthy, they're doing really well. And like you guys have said, owning your own business is not necessarily always the case.
No, not at all.
There's a lot.
We spoke about this on the last pod, and I said,
Yeah.
I said myself that, the reason why I know the insolvency process is because I was that close to filing for it during COVID. And that's why I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Because anybody who was particularly in business over that period who didn't get the same help as hospitality businesses and hotels, etc. So we had to fend for ourselves, and now the government's taken all the bloody money back as well for the self-employed. Then we've all experienced it, and the one thing I've said right from the start is that to actually send that email to the lawyer to instruct them to start the process is huge, isn't it?
It's like
it's not an easy decision.
Try to imagine this. This is our life, This is what I've been doing for the last 5-6 years. Claire's done it for 15. It's just an integrated part of what we do and who we are. And suddenly we find ourselves sitting there wording this email to the lawyer that everything ends now.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we know that this is going to happen. So people say, why couldn't we reach you? And so when you know that there's a truck coming, you get out of the way, because we know that this was horrible.
Yeah.
And it is horrible, but there's nothing we can do about it. And if people don't believe that, there's nothing we can do about it. If they think that we just sat on our hands, while that this ship was sinking, then they have no idea about who we are and what we stand for,
And not only that, Jen, you'll remember that, there's staff involved, there's suppliers involved, there's florists, DJs, entertainment, everything else.
There's an extreme amount of people, that we don't owe money, but who actually lost a great part of their income.
Exactly, who rely on it, and that's something that people forget, because everybody is just focusing on the couples, which is fair enough, because it's a very high profile situation that most people plan for a long time and save for a long time.
And I would also say, now all this will also become obvious, once the insolvency proceedings they begin. But then they can also say, well, Claire, she cashed in a lot of money then, since that money is gone. Claire, she's been working on minimum wage. So have I. So we haven't made a fortune out of this at all, Quite the contrary, Claire, she have always, when there have been issues, and this is something that there will be, when people see this clip, they will go out and recognize that and say, that was us, Last year, for example, we had a venue that went bust down in Costa d'Arge called La Terraza del Mar, because they had like 10 or 12 people, on sick leave. So they went bust. Yep. And here we had like 6 weddings booked, and Claire, she managed to get all these weddings transferred without any additional cost for the clients, with very short notice. And that cost us money and a lot of time and a lot of work, and of course we didn't charge for that. But it happens. And down here in Spain here, and these numbers are the same for the rest of Europe, There's like 6,000 to 8,000 companies every year that goes bankrupt. And if you include the self-employed as well, it's tens of thousands. Yep. And it's the same in all countries. It happens, unfortunately.
Let me ask you one more question about, what about the accusations that some of the couples are claiming they've used our money to finance their tapas bar?
I mean, it's just rubbish. It's rubbish. So it's rubbish.
Well, I know that. You haven't broken any rules by diversifying and opening a new business. But, I mean, has that had a negative effect on your business by opening that venue?
The negative effect is that it's horrible to run a bar in Los Castaños. So when we opened the bar,
Really?
I received a private message from another bar owner down there, and he wrote, "Welcome to hell," And I thought that was a little dramatic, until I tried doing it. And the thing is that it was impossible for us to get good staff,
And that's closed as well, because it's all part of the same company.
Yeah, the irony is that the bar is owned by Weddings in Tenerife. So the reason why it's closed is because Weddings in Tenerife is closed.
It's all part of it.
It's a part of the assets in Weddings in Tenerife. The bar is still in Weddings in Tenerife.
Yeah.
And again, I think this is private, but it's not something I need to tell people. But Claire, she actually bought this bar from money she inherited from her dad. And she shot that money into the company in order to do this. So everybody that says all these things, they know absolutely nothing by Claire. I understand that they're angry and upset. I understand that completely, But they don't know what they're talking about, not at all. Mm. And even though they say, yeah, but what about the bar now? The bar is still in Weddings in Tenerife. So
you can't open it.
I can't open it. We can't. We're not able to operate anymore.
Yeah.
I just want it, while you've got this platform, is there anything else that you would like people to understand or be aware of, or anything else that you would like to say?
I sincerely, I understand the couples that's very upset about this. And I hope that they will find their peace with this, that they don't keep chasing this like something awful happened to them, that it was a crime. We went bust, and we are very sorry that this happened. If they don't believe that we did everything we could to avoid it, there's nothing I can do about that, But I really hope that they will find a way to move on, because if they keep chasing this like it's a crime and we need Interpol involved and they need to be investigated and stuff like that, they're wasting their own time, because this is insolvency, and that's it.
Well, I think the last thing I want to say is thank you for being so open, transparent, candid, and just
thank you very much for having me. That's very appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else you'd like to say, Chris?
No, not at all, except Lars, thank you for taking the time to come in. I know it's not been an easy decision. I know it's a really crappy situation for all involved, you and and obviously the wedding couples. How are you and Claire going to move forward from this?
So we are going to take a long breather. So that's no secret, We're going to take a long breather. We're going to enjoy some time off. So we have been working like crazies, for the last couple of years and so forth. And we're just going to take a breather now, and then just let the dust settle and then let it sink in. But then Claire, she also have to get back on the horse, and then she'll have to find herself a job, because she lost her job.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, and
thank you.
Thank you again for coming on. Thank you for listening. We'll be back on another episode of the Tenerife Pod soon.